Hello YouTube! My name is Monika and most of you probably know me from racing downhill mountain biking. But today I would like to tell you the story about visiting Papua New Guinea in 2014 for 3 weeks on my own. I will tell you everything I've experienced in that time and why is it so dangerous to go there. I'll tell you how I went to the jungle and spent some time with the locals and how I visited the Asaro Mud Man Tribe in their own village up the Highlands. How I was taking drugs with the locals and how I developed this crazy fear of mosquitoes, most probably for years to come. I'll tell you how I visited this human open grave and I'll try to explain cannibalism in Papua New Guinea. I will just share everything I've learned about their amazing culture and I hope you will like it. People always seem to be super interested in this story, so I thought I will share it here with you on YouTube and I'm sure you will enjoy it. Right, where am I going to start? Let's start with why I wanted to go there. So when I was a little kid, I've seen this Discovery Channel program and I've seen these people with painted faces and stuff on their heads and I was thinking, wow, that's amazing. And then years later, in 2013, I used to live in New Zealand and I used to work in this organic grocery shop called Huckleberry Farms. And in our staff room, we had this world map on the wall like this one. And every time I was on my lunch break, I'll be staring at the map thinking, where am I gonna go on the way home? So basically, living in New Zealand, being from Czech Republic, I knew I have to cross nearly half the world to be able to come back. So the plan was always to visit some, Southeast Asia or some other countries on the way back. And as I was looking at the map one day, I was thinking, hang on, Papua New Guinea, that's the place where the guy was showing me these painted people on Discovery Channel years before. So I was like, I want to go there. And then I told my workmates and they were all like, you can't go there. I was like, why? Why can't I go there? And they were like, well, it's really dangerous. And I was thinking, well, it's dangerous everywhere. Like, everybody tells you it's always dangerous when you're going somewhere on your own. And anyway, so I left it. Nobody sort of was keen. Everybody was like, you're mental. And then year went, I was travelling around New Zealand, ended up in Queenstown, spent money, made more money. And then it came to the end where my visa was running out in a few months. So I had to start planning this trip. And I still had in my head the possibility of going to Papua New Guinea. And I start searching all this information, trying to look for some people who've actually been there. The way I travel is through couchsurfing. It's always low budget. I always give money to the locals. I never spend any time in hotels if I don't need to. I always spend time with the people from that place, some locals who will show me local food, local habits and everything like that. And that's what I was searching for people like that in Papua New Guinea. But it was nearly impossible because there were no couch surfers. There was no way of contacting anybody or finding anybody on Facebook. Bear in mind, this is 2014. Things probably changed. There will be more people now with Facebook and with social media and stuff like that. But at that time, I just couldn't find the right people. I couldn't find anybody. Then I was searching on couchsurfing, which it still exists, but it's a bit different now. It's this platform where you basically message or email these travelers and you can stay in their own place and they will show you around. And I couldn't find anybody who either been there traveling, so somebody who could give me some advice or some, tips, or even some hosts. Like, everything was just dead end. If I found finally some name, they wouldn't answer or it would turn out that it doesn't exist. So couldn't find anything. Then I sent quite a few messages to these traveling communities, if anybody's planning to go there in this summer time and blah, blah, blah. And everything was dead end. Couldn't find literally anybody. So decided to go anyway. The only information I could find about traveling to Papua New Guinea on low budget, don't go there, especially when you're a single woman. Even if you're a single man, like if you're traveling solo, just don't travel solo. Even if you want to go, you have to travel in a group and that will make it a little bit safer. If you're white, that is really dangerous. If you're white single woman, it's just impossible to go. the only thing I could find online is you're gonna get raped, you're gonna get robbed, you're gonna get hijacked, or just everything. But you know, sometimes you're reading a lot of stuff online, and I'm not the person who believes everything I read. I want to experience it, or I want to hear this from somebody who's been there. But then I couldn't find this connection. I just couldn't find anybody who would tell me, right, I've been there, I've experienced this, don't go, you're gonna get killed. And because I didn't find anybody like that, I decided to go. I still spent quite a few weeks researching as much information as I could, for example, about accommodation and stuff like that. Couldn't find much. There are places where you can stay, there are normal cities, but the places I wanted to go were not the cities. I wanted to go to the jungle, I wanted to see the local tribes, I wanted to see the people, how they live, how they've been affected by civilization these days. And so my way of traveling was different than anything I've found at the time. So I started to look into what do I have to do to even go there. First thing, protect yourself against these crazy diseases. You can get like all sorts in that. So went to medical center in Queenstown and got quite a few jobs in like a few months time. I got my vaccination certificate here because I had to have a look. I got some boosters, so that's if you got some jab when you were a little kid and then you need like a booster when you're older. So these boosters were for hepatitis and typhoid. Then I got jabs for rabies, diphtheria, tetanus, and then they suggested quite a few others, but I couldn't get them because you either have to have one when you're younger, or they were not available, or it was too late, or something like that. One of these was like this Japanese fever, and like quite a lot of different types of fevers. What I was like, well, if I can't get a jab, I don't need to think about it. So I got that. Second thing, get a visa. You can't really get a visa. You just need to turn up and hope you're gonna get a visitor's visa. That's basically how it is. I tried to contact embassies, embassy in Brisbane, and what they told me was that they can't guarantee that the system, the immigration system to Papua New Guinea, didn't change since they last reviewed it, and it was like 6 years, and nobody could basically give you any more information. But clearly, I got the visa on the end. So that was that. So why is Papua New Guinea so dangerous? Let's start with Port Moresby, the capital. There are actually 3 bigger cities, and that's the worst parts where all these things are happening. So first thing, gangs. There are gangs with guns fighting against each other. Then there are bushmen, basically like tribes, and they have machetes and they fighting against each other as well. Some people got machetes and guns, and this is all mixing in these towns. They involve public as well. If you're basically in the wrong place at the wrong time, you can get in trouble. You're not allowed, or you're not supposed to go out after dark at all, regardless if you're local or if you're me, white girl in there on her own. You just don't go out in the dark, because that's where the gangs are fighting the most. There are people always on drugs. I'll be speaking about this later, but they are always drugged. There's no sober people unless they are the educated part of this town. So there are the people who go into universities and, you know, doctors and people who work there trying to live normal life. They are educated and they are most probably sober, because they've just recently realized that these drugs are not good for you, so they're trying to reduce it. But all this fighting is coming from poverty, drugs, and lack of education, really. That's where it comes from. Then there is hijacking, carjacking. You get surrounded by this gang. If you're in the car on your own, you get surrounded, they pointing guns at you, you just jump out of the car and they steal your car and go. This is the best scenario. In the worst case, if it's a woman on her own in the car, she will most probably get raped, basically. Gang raped is awful. So you're supposed to travel in like a convoy to protect this happening. but it's hard if you just live in your normal life there, or trying to. So this raping thing is unfortunately a big part of the culture. It's only recently when there are organizations trying to help these women and they're trying to seek help, and it's genuinely a very recent thing. So they finally have somewhere to go and basically report rape, but there are thousands of cases every year, and there are thousands of cases obviously not reported, and they know the issue is there, they're trying to sort it now, but these men are just showing their power. They think they owe the woman, even though it could be their wife. They will still say that they love them, but they will keep raping them, keep abusing them physically and sexually, and they just don't have anywhere to go because that's where they live, and that's how it is, and they somehow always accepted it, and it's awful. Usually these men are part of these gangs. It's not the educated people who do this. It's not all the people in Papua New Guinea. It's just the frequency of all these crimes happening is way higher than anywhere else. Or there are places in the world, dangerous, but a few. So all this. So it's the gangs, the guns, the machetes. That's probably one of the scariest things. The raping, the abuse, and the thing is that there's a lot of people with HIV in Papua New Guinea and with a lot of other illnesses. So the thing is, if you get raped, you might also get some disease, and it's just awful. But if you forget about all this, the country is just so interesting. There is like 8 million people, and most of them live in these little communities somewhere in the forest. There's these tribes in the jungle, and there's 850 different languages. And like maybe 40% of the whole community, they are just living self-sustainable lives. So they're just growing their own veggies on their little garden somewhere in the jungle. So this is just so interesting. I wanted to see all that. So I think I will now tell you the story from day one. Day one. So I'm sat at the airport in Brisbane and I'm waiting for my flight to Port Moresby. I have maybe 1 hour left and I still don't have any accommodation sorted. The only thing I have is like addresses of some places where I could potentially stay. So one of them would be like a hotel. But I didn't want to stay there, but I would have to probably if it came to it. So I'm sat at the airport and I suddenly get this message, like an answer finally from somebody I messaged on Facebook. And it's this guy, he's maybe 35 years old, he's got his own family, he's well educated, he speaks English, and he works in Port Moresby in like an office. But he lives on this little island close to Port Moresby. And he finally like answers me back, telling me all these things, and says, "You're more than welcome to stay with me and my family this first week in Papua New Guinea." So first thing, you like stoked that somebody actually replied, then you're thinking, he doesn't have any pictures on Facebook, there's no way of finding who it is. So I keep asking him all these questions. Bear in mind, I have only like literally a few minutes left to jump on a plane and get there. And he basically was like really helpful. He tried to send me some photos, which was like picture of him, then picture of his kids, then his dad. And I'm like, well, it could be just random pictures, but it seems all right. And then he says, I can pick you up from the airport and I can come with my dad, which to him was like assuring that he's not just like a random guy who wants to hurt me. But at the same time, is it better if one black guy comes to pick you up, or is it better if two guys come in and picking you up? Like it's just crazy either way. So I basically said, okay, this is my only way to find out. I need to meet them. And I jumped on a plane and went to Port Moresby. Got out. First thing I did, got a local SIM card, and they were waiting there for me. So first, like, you're really scared because you don't know who it is. It's complete strangers. They speak like really good English, so that was quite good. And they had like really smart clothes, so it felt like, okay, they probably have money. But, you know, is it a good thing or is it not a bad thing? You don't know. Next minute, I'm sat in the car with with two black men. It's not racist, this is what's happening. I am scared. First thing what you're thinking is, you know, you shouldn't jump in a car with random people, and that's exactly what I did the first minute in Papua New Guinea. So I'm sat in the car with them, and they are telling me that, you know, they will have to lock the car. So I was like, okay, fair enough. Then they're trying to be really polite and like explaining it. So they said, we will lock the car, and as we go through town, just like don't look at people, or if you see somebody like staring at you, just sort of like don't look at them, and just be careful. Like if we tell you to put your head down, just do it. Like it might happen, like we might have to tell you to basically hide in case something's happening. So that makes you feel already like really scared, like my heart was just, you know, going. So sat in the car, we set off, and I still don't even know where we're going. I know that they live on this little island, but I don't know how we're gonna get there. So we driving through town. We are in a normal car, but everywhere I look around, I see these big cars. It's like these security people, like police and all sorts. And they have these big cars with like grills on every window. They have guns. And then you're thinking, is this protection? Like, is this a police, or is this some sort of a gang, or who got these cars with grills everywhere around? So that's first thing you see. Second thing, there's like little kids just playing on the streets naked, and nobody's bothered. You're just thinking, oh, well, that's normal. They're not skinny. It's not like you would see typical thing where you imagine like a poverty, where you think, oh, it's gonna be a really skinny, hungry kid. No, they all seem really happy actually. Just played in the mud somewhere on the street, and genuinely looked, you know, happy, sorted, fed, everything. So, but obviously it is scary, the whole situation, people around with guns, and a lot of wandering people on the street. You're thinking, why is there that many people on all these streets where we're not even anywhere like in a downtown or anything? And it's just, I think because there is quite a high level of unemployment in Papua New Guinea. So the reason is that people just don't have anything to do. So they're just on the streets, wandering around, chewing their own drugs, and that's what they do. I didn't need to hide anywhere. There was not the situation. The only thing which was crazy to see was all these buildings. Like there's this hotel, and that is for normal tourists or anybody who's visiting the town. And there's this massive wall around it with razor wire on top of it, and the entrance is this gate, and there's like two guards with guns on them, and it's like a double gate. So I will experience this later, but you're just thinking, right, like there is a serious security to get anywhere into like any building where normal people live. So razor wire everywhere, people wandering everywhere, and that's why maybe there are all these fights randomly happening for no reason, because there's that many people wandering and not having anything particular to do, that they probably just start arguing like what we know as a normal pub fight, but it sort of escalates and they just stab each other, and it happens sometimes. So that's why it's like another part of the whole thing, that if you have too many people who don't have anything to do, these things just happen. Anyway, so I'm in this car. My heart rate is probably 190, and we go into this coast. There's quite a few people, there's little kids on the coast. We get off the car, they tell me it's safe, that it's fine, that they will, like, they basically just assured me that it's safe. And you're just thinking, is it? Because I'm with these random people, I literally know them for 5 minutes, and then there's like a crowd of people gathering around, slowly going like closer. Everybody's staring at me. Like, you know, nobody in our culture here in the UK or anywhere, nobody's gonna be like staring at you for like more than a few seconds. And if you look at them, you know, you don't keep staring at people, but these people do, because they don't know any better. They're interested because they obviously see white people, but it's not often. So they just were staring at me, and you're just thinking, what are they gonna do? And then you just look around and you see people with machetes, but nothing. They're not doing anything. They just have a machete with them, and that was the moment where I thought, if that guy is gonna, like, if something's gonna piss this guy off, like, we're all dead. But they were fine. They just have machete, like, carrying knife with him. Why not? Right, I'm at the coast, and then there's this little boat, this little dinghy on the water, and they just like, right, so here, this is how we're traveling to the island. And I'm just thinking, there's no way we can get on this little boat to the island. Well, we did. So I get down, so there's these two guys, so that's this guy and his dad, and then there's like two kids, maybe one of them be 12 years old and one of them like 10 or something like that. They jump in, they were waiting for us by the boat before. We all jump in. This is where I'm like, right, if they want to do anything to me, like, there's no way I can escape from this. There's no way back. I'm just messaging my mom thinking, is she going to have a heart attack from me not telling her where I am? Or if she's going to have a heart attack from me messaging her that I just jumped in a dinghy with some black people and not knowing even where I'm going. Jump in, and then we set off, and these waves are like, they're not big, but you know, when you pick up some speed, it's sort of getting splashed. So they start putting this like a blue cover over me, first like a little bit, and then when you get a bit further from the coast, they just covered me completely with this blue sheet. Like, I'm just like this, feeling like some illegal immigrant going somewhere. And I'm just covered with this sheet. Now I can't even see where I'm going, which was scary. And so this is the moment when I'm just like really scared and unsure what's happening and what I'm doing. But then just a few minutes later, they sort of open the sheet, and there's this like a beautiful little island, just sand and a lot of little buildings. At the moment, I can't see what it really is. These little sheds. And there's like the whole community, like a lot of people and like a lot of kids just on the coast waiting for us. And they just like jump in and screaming something. I obviously can't hear at the moment. So we approaching the island. There's this mass of people. Like, I don't know how many, but a lot. I can't tell how many people was there. And everybody's like jumping, and the little kids are super happy. Then there's like pigs, like really close to the ocean, just like pigs, and they own little sheds. Then the people sheds, and then there's like more buildings behind, and there's like these really dry trees, but they're not really growing. And we approached, jumped off the boat, and they were so welcoming. What they were actually shouting was Tina Pata, which means white lady in their own language, or one of the languages they speak, which I learned later on. So the little kids were just like, Tina Pata, Tina Pata. And so just like seeing white lady. It's not like they have never seen white lady, maybe just the little kids, the tiny ones, they wouldn't see white people because maybe they haven't been in town yet, or if they were, at that time they wouldn't see anybody white. So that's who some of the little kids never seen white people yet, or they wouldn't remember because it's not something that you see normally. And this is when I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's quite safe here, like this place seems safe, everybody likes me, and everybody was pretty much like one family, so there was no fear of some sort of a fight because everybody looked really happy. and wealthy. The guy who took me there seems to be quite rich compared to a lot of people because he's well educated, he works in town, he provides for his family, and they actually have one of the best actual building on the island where that's their house. It's called Fisherman's Island because the only thing they can do is to go fishing and bring food to their families. They can't really grow anything on the island. They just have pigs, but that's it. So they have to go to the island, to different parts of the coast to collect vegetable, or you can go to town to buy vegetable and fruit. I had really interesting food there. So they caught some fish, they prepped that, very fresh. But what was interesting was what they served with the fish. So they make this banana mash and serve it in a bowl. So that's full of banana mash. And then they put this fish on it. And I found it like really interesting because you're thinking, hang on, this is like sweet and then this is fish. And then they put like this coconut milk sort of on it. And it was really good, and I was quite surprised that you can eat like banana mash with fish. So that was really special, and I had that a few times, and it was really good. They also showed me how to work out this coconut. They bring coconuts from the main island, and they have this little chair where you just like sat on it with open legs, and then you just grinding the inside of the coconut in between your legs. It's quite a simple tool, and it works. And then they process the coconut different ways. They make like coconut oil with it and coconut butter. They use coconut for everything. I wanted to have a shower, so how they do it, they just have this like a corner outside of the building. There's some sheets they found somewhere, and you just get like 2 buckets of water and you just sort of wash yourself in there. Yeah, again, I didn't have a problem with that. There's people like looking around, they can sort of see you, but you know, you don't really care, or you don't have any other option. Second thing which was quite interesting was the toilet. So it got quite dark, and there was just this like a hole in the ground and wooden shed. So just like a wooden toilet somewhere, you know, if you go camping. So I just had this like a flashlight. Went there, I just had to be really careful where I'm stepping because there's like pigs running around, they're shitting everywhere, and there could be like metal bits in the sand. So you just don't want to step on something and cut your feet. That would be the end of the trip possibly. So I just had to be careful where I'm stepping. But got to this toilet, open the door, and then you just like you just put the light in, and you see like hundreds of cockroaches everywhere, on the seat, everywhere on the wood, just around you. So you're thinking, oh my god, you would expect spiders, but not cockroaches. So that was one of the things when I thought, it was like, I really need to go to the toilet, but I couldn't like sit on the seat. It was just obviously like a square hole in this wood. And you could see that the cockroaches were like underneath the sides, because you could see them just like sticking out of the sides. So I just sort of like, put my feet on top of it. But that was a bit worrying because I was like, I don't know what diseases they will give me, or what are they gonna do to me. They probably scared more of me than I am of them, but that was a bit horrible. At night, I had my own bed in my own room. I just put sleeping bag on top of my bed, and I didn't really need to be covered because it was quite hot. There was quite a few cockroaches in corners of the room, but I tried to ignore it, and I just hope that they're gonna ignore me. The only thing I was genuinely worried about were mosquitoes, because there is quite a lot of different types of mosquitoes in Papua New Guinea, and under 2,000 meters above sea level you can get malaria. The thing is, there are different types of mosquitoes during the day and during the night. The ones what sort of emerge after, like in the evening, that's the malaria mosquitoes. So how I was protecting myself, I had my clothes soaked in this DEED military use liquid. I did that before I went to Papua New Guinea. I soaked it in for I don't know how long, dried it, and then you can wash it 12 times, and it still works the way that the mosquito shouldn't really sit on you. The thing is that mosquito can bite you through even 4 or 5 layers of clothes. So thick layer doesn't help. It needs to be something which will prevent them to sit on you. And you're supposed to cover your skin. So I had these long trousers. It's all like sort of airy, and everything, all my clothes were soaked in this sort of liquid chemical. But at night, obviously, you're sort of exposed. They said that it's not as bad on the Fisherman's Island because there is not like there's no standing water. There's nothing's growing there really, so there's nowhere the mosquitoes can sort of settle. So it was quite good there. And you have all these nets, all the windows and everything got nets around. So you just sort of scared, but you're just trying to be careful, because I knew I'm going into places later on where the mosquitoes will be really bad. But every time you wake up and you hear mosquito, you just know that that can carry some sort of a disease and it can genuinely kill you. At that time, I knew I'm quite close to Port Moresby, or I'm nearly there. So if anything happens, I would be able to get some treatment in Port Moresby, because that's the best place to be if you're ill. There are hospitals and everything. But I knew that I'm going up to the mountains later on. I knew I'm going to different places of Papua New Guinea later on. So you're just trying to get just protected against all this. I sort of started feeling like if I hear mosquito, if I see mosquito, I just need to kill it before it kills me. And that's how I was sort of operating the whole time. So I felt really welcome. Everybody was amazing. They introduced me to their family, and there was these 2 young lads, and they spent time with me. They were explaining their culture, but mainly they helped me with everything. So they taught me how to speak some of their languages, and this really helped me for the next 2 weeks, which I spent in different places after. So usually how it works is everybody speaks at least 3 languages, or possibly 4. Usually it's their parents. They would be each one of them from different tribes. So that means the kids would speak their mother language, their dad's language, and also pidgin. Pidgin is this language basically artificially made from quite a lot of different languages, but it's really basic. So there's like one word which means anything to do with food. So you can learn a lot of words. If you learn just like a few words, you can already put together some sort of a sentence. And this is made for everybody in the island, and so they can communicate with each other even though they're from different tribes. So most people speak pidgin, and then most people speak them 2 languages of their parents. Some of them speak English as well. Some of them speak another language of whatever tribe, So it's quite interesting. But knowing pidgin really helps to get around and being able to make some friends. So they were like teaching me every day some words. I was always asking about it, and we spent some time together. The second thing they taught me was chewing this betel nut, which is the psychotic drug. Betel nut. So betel nut is this drug which is used all over the globe. It's not just in Papua New Guinea. It's used in a lot of countries in Asia, and it's just highly addictive, psychotic, and it just gives you this energy and buzz, gets you sweating, gets you drugged basically. So that's what I did. So the second day they took me to the beach and had these nuts, and this whole drug is not just one thing, it's 3 different ingredients. One's the betel nut, which is just a seed of 1 palm. Then there is a mustard stick, and then there's this lime powder. The lime powder is really hard to get. It comes from corals, and it's regulated by the government. So you can only go and harvest the corals 3 times a year or something like that. There's like specific times when and who can go and collect it. The coral grows quite quickly. It's like 10 centimeters per year. So that is quite quick for coral. And they go and harvest it, and then it's this white long coral. Then they burn it. Then they sort of grind it in little into little powder. It's quite interesting, and then they sort of sell it for like 1 kina or a few more. Anyway, so they have these 3 ingredients. You put the nut in your mouth and you dip the mustard stick into this lime powder, bite it off and chew it all together. It turns red, so you're spitting out like a really bright red liquid. You're not supposed to swallow it. It will make you feel sick. So you're just spitting out this red liquid. Everybody's like smiling, having like completely red mouth and teeth, and you're just getting high basically. People start singing. Some people start dancing because they feel like, the buzz. Me sat on the beach. First my nose starts sweating, then I start sweating, then I feel like really dizzy, but I really relaxed. The strength of the nut really depends on the age of the nut, so you can have like different strengths, but you don't really know. Some of them really strong ones got different color. It gets more brown, so you can sort of tell which one's like hardcore. So first time I tried it was the second day on the island. We got high with them, and it really helped me to understand how to do it, how to buy it, where does it come from, how much it is, and it really saved me for later on when I was up the mountains, and I made friends by basically chewing these betel nuts with them. The kids will take me around the island. They don't really wear shoes. You're literally just on the sand, so you don't really need to. But there is a lot of garbage and just stuff like in the sand. So I took my hiking boots just to be safe, because if I cut myself, that could be potentially quite dangerous, because you can get some of the crazy diseases just from contaminated stuff. So I put my hiking boots on. I was taking anti-malarial pills, which makes you getting sunburn really easily. So I would be just constantly putting sunscreen on, and I was still getting quite red. I was sunburned. Anyway, we go for this walk, basically going around the island, and we get to the complete other side where there are no buildings or anything. The water is just crystal clear, and it's beautiful. It's just blue water, just sand beach, like white sand beach, and it's just so nice. I think these days, like now, there are some companies in Port Moresby actually making trips on like a normal boat to Fisherman's Island. So it's now getting more commercial, and they're visiting the other side of the island where there are no buildings or no people. So I think people pay money. It could be probably something to do with the people who are living on the island, because they realized in the last few years that they can make some money off it, which is, fair enough. So I think now if you go to Port Moresby, you can actually pay somebody and have a safe trip to Fisherman's Island for the afternoon and come back. But at the time I was just there with these kids, and they just like jump in the water in clothes. I'm like, you're not taking your t-shirts off or anything. No, they just jump in how they are. So I jumped in how I was. The problem was that it obviously washed off my sunscreen, so I was getting burned all the way back. It was one of the first time the kids seen GoPro, so they were like jumping on front of it and like trying to get into the pictures, and they were amazed that I can like film it underwater. Even though like some of the guys who are going to universities in town, they have phones, so it was just something new. It's like if you imagine the technology is there, they know about it, but not everybody's got it, not everybody's understand it. There's a lot of differences between educated people and people who can't even read. There's a lot of illiterate people, so it's just different culture, and it's quite cool to see these kids just being really happy from being there in the water. So we took some cool pictures, walked around the island. I got completely sunburned, and I had like really good day out. I've seen some of like completely remote little sheds or little houses on the other side of the island. So there's nothing, and there's just like this one house. I don't know who lives in it. It was quite interesting, good experience. Another really interesting thing about Fisherman's Island is that there is only a few normal buildings which belongs to like wealthy people. Then there's just these little sheds where everybody else lives and everybody's happy. And then suddenly in the middle of nowhere, like quite further from all the other buildings, there is this bright green newly built church. And you're just thinking, where does this come from? Apparently it was some sort of a grant. Everybody's religious, it's part of their culture, they have regular services, and I don't know what was there before. I think they like knocked down some older building and through some grant they got this, and it's really weird. So bright green thing in the middle of this sandy island. Crazy. They love soccer, so the kids are just playing soccer all the time. They don't have anything else to do, so they're just playing soccer. And I think they're quite good, and they don't care that if the ball is like small or if it doesn't have any air in it. They just enjoy the game how it is. They don't care that there's pigs around, there's stray dogs, and all this. And they don't have shoes. There's all these metal bits in the sand, but they don't care. They just enjoy the game, and everyone is like so happy. Nobody is sad that they need something better. They don't care that they don't have any new football or something like that. They just enjoy their life how it is, and nobody got any problem with it. So this is something what everybody should learn from them, how happy they are and how little they have, and they don't need any more. They don't need anything better. They just live their lives how it is. So one day they told me that there's gonna be a volleyball tournament, and I'm just thinking, where do you go to this tournament? And there's this flat bit on the sand, so it's perfect. They just put these lines around, and it was sort of like a festival. The whole village sort of got into it. Everybody was around. They bring everything they have, like food and like snacks. They get like ready for it, and everybody's chewing betel nuts, everybody's happy, and then there's these kids just like playing against each other, and everybody's like mega stoked. It was amazing. I loved it. The last day the kids took me around the village to see how the other people live. So I've seen the other houses inside, and it was interesting because there was quite a lot of teenagers with their own projects. Some of them study in town, and then they bring back some technology or something. So one of the kids would be making his own music in his little shed. Then another kid would be printing t-shirts. So I gave him my t-shirt. I didn't have any plain one, but he would make like a design. He had this ink, and it was like a really simple machine where he made the design, and then he printed that design on my t-shirt. So I found it really cool because all these technologies are basically new to them. These young kids bringing this in, and I think every year it's changing, every year it's evolving. I think it's going to be really different now compared to 2014. There's probably going to be more technology, maybe more buildings, maybe different materials. I don't know. I would love to like come back and see how it all changed. I created quite a strong bond with these people because I felt really grateful that they helped me. They gave me accommodation. They were so friendly. I obviously gave them some money. I didn't want to stay there for free, but they were so happy compared to anybody in wealthy countries, I would say. They don't need much and they're just happy. And they don't need more. They don't have the feeling that they need more. And if they do something to change it. So like these teenagers, if they want to do something, they go for it. They go to town, source themselves something they want to do and work on it and try to make it better. So it's I think we all could learn from them. I found it quite hard to leave on the end after only a few days because I feel like I created this strong bond with these people. I felt like I owe them something and I really like them. So I'm on this beach again. There's a lot of people around, kids shouting tinapata, touching my skin, touching my earrings. and giving me more of these drugs and some gifts. I was given this shell necklace, or actually a few, one big one for me, and my brother and his wife just had a kid at the time, so they gave me like a little one for my niece, which was amazing, made out of little shells. And anyway, so I just had to jump on the boat. There was other people going to town, so there was more of us on the boat this time, and I had like tears in my eyes because I just felt like I don't want to go, but I knew there's more to come. I had another 2 weeks in 2 different places in Papua New Guinea, so I was heading to Port Moresby to the airport, and yeah, it was crazy. We jump off the boat, I jump in the car, they drop me off at the airport, and I have a flight ticket booked going to Goroka, which is up the Highlands, up the mountains, which is very close to some of the tribes I want to see. And unfortunately, I don't have anything booked, I don't have any contact. I didn't manage to basically contact anybody there. And this is what's going to be in the next episode. So please keep watching and let me know what you thought about this. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below or message me, and then I can answer these questions in the next episode. Thanks for watching.